Thank you, Ray. I'm going to call to order the regular monthly meeting of the Monument Planning Commission. Today's date, May 13, 2026. Thanks for all attending tonight's meeting. Before we begin, I'd like to state that the Planning Commission meetings are open to the public in person and via a Microsoft Teams streaming application. All Planning Commission meeting information can be found on the Town of Monument website. The Planning Commission's role is to conduct public hearings and to make recommendations for the Town Council regarding land use matters in the Town of Monument. Each commissioner agrees to a non-partial, objective, and fair review, which includes no prejudgment of the projects. Should a commissioner wish to disqualify him or herself for any conflicts of personal or financial interest in this matter before us tonight, please say so now. For those attending tonight who wish to provide comment on agenda items, you may speak to the commission during the public comment section of the agenda. Those who attend in person will be called upon first and are asked to come to the podium and sign in with your name and address. Those attending via Microsoft Teams will be called upon next and are asked to utilize the raise your hand option and unmute your microphone when called upon. We ask that if multiple people have the same comment, only one person speak on that same subject. Again, thanks for attending. We'll now begin with a roll call.
Thank you. Chair Egley.
Here.
Vice Chair Peterson.
Here.
Commissioner Baumer. Commissioner Hatch.
Here.
Commissioner Parr.
Here.
Commissioner Trujillo.
Here.
Thank you. That concludes roll call.
Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, liberty and justice for all. At the first order of business is to approve the minutes from our most recent Planning Commission meeting on April 8th, 2026. I move that we approve the minutes. Is there a second?
Commissioner Trujillo, I second.
We have a motion and a second. Ray?
Thank you. Chair Egley.
Yes.
Vice Chair Peterson.
Yes.
Commissioner Baumer.
Yes.
Commissioner Hatch.
Yes.
Commissioner Parr.
Yes.
And Commissioner Trujillo.
Yes.
Thank you. Motion passes 6 in favor, none opposed.
Thank you. Next item is discussion of new business, a report from Jenna Gorning, our senior planner on regulation of data centers in the Town of Monument.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. One moment to share my presentation. No. Hold, please. All right, so this evening I just want to give a very high level just introduction to the topic of data centers and their regulation and development, not only in the Town of Monument, but as they're spreading across the Front Range with more increased interest. I might say that, again, it is a very high-level presentation, just kind of introduce the topic, as I'm sure we've all done some of our own individual research, and we know that the conversation could probably get quite lengthy. But before we do that, I just want to kind of present some ideas at a base level and just get on the record the couple issues that we may be up against in regards to future regulation of data centers. So over the past year, local governments across Colorado Front Range have experienced a sharp increase in interest in this kind of land use of data centers. While we don't have any formal applications at this time, in Monument, regional activity, legislative challenges and changes, and recent community discussion have highlighted questions regarding how this emerging use would be evaluated if proposed locally. Because Monument's Land Development Code does not expressly identify or regulate data centers, staff initiated the discussion to ensure that the town is prepared to respond thoughtfully rather than reactively should the interest materialize. Data centers differ substantially from traditional industrial or commercial development. They tend to operate continuously, employ relatively few people, and rely heavily on electricity, water, and specialized mechanical systems to function. While they can represent a significant capital investment, they also introduce infrastructure demands that may exceed those associated with more conventional land uses in a community like ours, with finite utility capacity, sensitive environmental conditions, and a distinct small town character. Understanding these implications in advance is critical to thoughtful responding. Staff is interested at this time in just starting a policy level discussion now, earlier than rather than later, to consider not to consider rather a specific proposal or endorse a particular outcome in the moment. The intent of this brief initial presentation is to provide Planning Commission and later Town Council with a high-level set of information on how data centers function, what types of impacts they may have on utilities, public infrastructure, and land use capacity and compatibility, fiscal balance, and public services. Recent actions by peer jurisdictions, including temporary moratorium and new regulatory framework, highlight the importance of deliberate planning before development interest accelerates. Staff's goal is to seek guidance from Planning Commission and Town Council on how the town should proceed. Options range from defining and regulating data centers through future code updates, along with our Chapter 18 rewrite, or establishing interim safeguards that would allow for additional research, agency coordination, and public engagement. Initiating the discussion now positions Monument to align future discussions with its comprehensive plan, infrastructure constraints, and community values while maintaining transparency and deliberate long-term planning. Data centers themselves are facilities designed to house computer servers and related infrastructure used to process, store, and transmit digital information. They may serve as a single organization, host multiple centers, support large-scale cloud or artificial intelligence platforms, or operate as smaller facilities. Physically, data centers are generally large buildings with low human occupancy, extensive mechanical and electrical demands, continuous 24-hour operations, and relatively limited on-site employment when compared to their overall building size. However, it's important to understand there are several emerging data center types, not to be forgotten, that include co-location and in office buildings, and microcenters that can be as small as 10,000 square feet, but demand a similar type of utility capacity. Unlike traditional industrial uses, data centers generate minimal traffic once they're operational. However, they consume a significant amount of electricity, primarily to power servers, cooling systems, and backup generators, with projections indicating that their energy use could rise significantly over the coming years. Because our code doesn't currently define data center uses or have use-specific standards in place to mitigate their efforts, this could lead to challenges in applying development standards related to those things such as noise, buffering, building mass, and utility impacts. Under current code, it would be likely located in an industrial zoning district at this time with no related use standards. Regarding water, while some newer facilities utilize cool air or hybrid cooling systems, many data centers still consume significant amounts of water for cooling and equipment operation. Water use is continuous rather than seasonal and may include consumptive losses depending on the system design. The Town of Monument's municipal water system relies on wells drawing from the Denver Basin aquifers and has a finite production capacity serving an established customer base. In the context of ongoing drought conditions and long-term water supply planning, high-volume industrial water users raise important questions regarding sustainability, priority of use, and growth allocation. Additionally, waste and stormwater can also be a topic of concern. Data center cooling processes may generate wastewater through system blowdowns, which can contain treatment chemicals requiring careful management. Large building footprints also include increased impervious surface, potentially affecting stormwater runoff, drainage infrastructure, and downstream water quality. Additionally, data centers present unique public safety considerations that differ from traditional commercial uses. These facilities commonly contain lithium-ion batteries, diesel backup generators, and on-site fuel storage to ensure uninterrupted operations. Fire suppression systems often use clean agents rather than water, which may influence emergency response strategies. Monument's location within a wildland-urban interface and its reliance on regional fire protection services highlights the importance of understanding whether existing emergency response capacity, training, and infrastructure are sufficient to support this type of development. With a relatively small municipal boundary, end of life and decommission of these specialized facilities is also something to consider. Data center buildings are highly specialized and may be difficult to adapt to other uses once they're vacated. In addition, dedicated utility facilities are constructed to serve these buildings and could become stranded if use ceases to operate. Decommissioning considerations include removal of hazardous materials, fuel storage systems, and battery infrastructure. Some communities address this risk through financial securities or bonding, requirements to ensure that site restoration and infrastructure mitigation occurs. Ranking right up there in importance with the huge electricity and water demand is the delicate nature of the land use capacity and compatibility. Data centers are generally large sites with reliable access to utilities and infrastructure setbacks from sensitive uses. Potential compatibility issues include mechanical noise from the cooling systems, generator testing, building scale, and visual impacts and light pollution. Monument's development pattern includes established residential neighborhoods, open space, and proximity to forest lands. Excuse me. Ensuring appropriate buffering of building design and location relative to existing residential uses would be critical to maintaining community character and minimizing land use effects. However, excuse me, data centers often contribute substantially to property tax revenue due to their high value of building and equipment. However, they typically generate minimal sales tax and require relatively few long-term employees as compared to the physical size and infrastructure demands. From a fiscal perspective, Monument would want to weigh property tax benefits against the infrastructure utility costs, emergency service demands, and limited long-term employment benefits. For a town like Monument, which emphasizes balanced growth and fiscal stewardship, understanding the net fiscal impacts is critical. Some options that could be considered include incentives or even disincentives that could impact design, such as tax incentives. These tax abatements could be paired with a community benefit requirement that could be captured in a development agreement. Other benefit trade-offs could include the build-out of needed infrastructure, investment in downtown development, or a requirement to develop parks and trails. Recent data center proposals in the Front Range in Utah have generated significant public concern, particularly related to the perceived incompatibility with surrounding neighborhoods. These responses underscore the importance of transparency, early public engagement, and clear regulatory expectations. Monument has consistently emphasized its small town identity, quality of life, and natural setting. Any consideration of new high-intensity infrastructure uses must account for these community values and expectations of the residents. Data centers are absolutely not a thing of the future. As we all know, they are right now. So several Front Range jurisdictions, including Larimer County and the City and County of Denver, have been evaluating new data centers right now. The City and County of Denver is scheduled to consider a temporary moratorium on its May 18th agenda, and Larimer County has already initiated a moratorium that's in effect till August of 2026. So these moratoria are in effect to allow time for further research, public input, and the development of tailored land use regulations in response to rapid growth and community concerns. As mentioned, at this time, we don't have any current applications for new data center development. Staff further notes that even if we were to get a proposal at this time, it would be unlikely that an applicant could get a utility will serve, as we don't currently have the capacity for that kind of demand. In consideration of the issue, the town may in the future wish to evaluate potential regulatory pathways. I highlighted each of them here. There could be some other creative options as well, but we could begin with a use by right evaluation in which we would carefully tailor some use-specific standards. In that case, it would be quite important that we evaluate the range of size and impact for data centers. Of course, we may be most familiar with those very large data centers that have huge impacts, but as mentioned, there can be some smaller that have some equally important utility capacity demands and impacts to the community as well. We would be dependent, without the use specifications, we would pretty much be dependent on ad hoc regulations and evaluation of applications as they came through within the industrial zoning district without being able to buffer those issues. Another unique option, we could consider a data center overlay. This has been done in Loudoun County, Virginia, Chandler and Mesa, Arizona, as well as Prince William County, Virginia. This would require the Planning Commission recommendation and Town Council approval. The overlay would be supported by the comprehensive plan if the chosen action, and it would include performance standards addressing the noise, water, energy efficiency, site design, and whatever else we wanted to put in there as an overlay. Another option is similar to an overlay, but it would not be mapped out in the same way an overlay is. We would put it in the land use permitted use chart in the same way conditional uses exist now. And the conditional use would be processed as a public hearing with Planning Commission and Town Council. It would need to meet the existing review criteria as in the land use code, and it would require consistency with the comprehensive plan. So that's an important piece of that element. And last but not least would be temporarily adopting a moratorium, as we've seen in other communities. I would say we've kind of discussed this a little in the department, and based on what we're understanding with the capacity for our utility partners to be or not able to provide a will serve letter, it might be worth considering that at this time we wouldn't be able to allow a development to move forward, and potentially adopting a moratorium at this time would initiate a stop clock that could start immediately, and we would be forced into writing regulation maybe a little bit early, I would say, as opposed to maybe sitting back a little bit and seeing how other communities and peer municipalities are regulating these and how that goes for them. If we don't have any current applications in place and we don't necessarily have the utility capacity to provide will serve letters, it might be worth considering if we would be acting a little bit quickly by enacting a moratorium with a particular timestamp on it. It might be beneficial to see how some of these communities' regulations that they are writing in place after these moratoriums, how those work out and how the developments are impacting those communities. So in regards to the moratorium, that's something to consider as well. Initial review, as we've mentioned here, shows that data centers represent a land use with a disproportionate infrastructure and resource demand relative to their employment and day-to-day activities. Prior to permitting or considering code updates, the town would likely want to conduct utility capacity assessments with our utility providers in a roundtable fashion. We are already having that discussion and looking to schedule that, so that's in the works, so we can clearly understand what our partners would need and what this use would demand from each of those utility partners. We would want to be sure to engage our regional partners in the area to understand what kind of applications and challenges they're seeing, and discuss capacity and other concerns that they note as well. Of course, we, as mentioned, would want to engage our fire protection and emergency service providers to see what kind of concerns we may have there as a unique community by in the urban wildland. Excuse, I'm not gonna say urban. Help me out. I'm not going to go back to that section. Either way, I'm going to move forward. And we would also want to review best practices from peer communities, engage the public early with dense discussions so we can understand what the community would want. And as far as the moratorium, I kind of just discussed that a little bit briefly on the pros and cons of doing that. So there are several things we would want to do as far as next steps, but there are some of options I've presented there. So ultimately, the purpose of the discussion and brief presentation today, again, is just kind of introduce the topic, and staff is hoping to receive direction both from Planning Commission and Town Council, and understand if we would be directed to provide some more research, if there's a strong leaning towards a moratorium, or I think as staff, we are leaning potentially to the idea of allowing a little bit of time to understand how these uses are developed and their impacts, and potentially writing some specific code updates to come along with our Title 18 code updates alongside the comprehensive plan. Might be a little more streamlined and partnered in that process. So staff is just looking to allow Planning Commission to have a little bit of side discussion on the topic, and then receive some direction on where we would like to go on the topic. So I will be available if you have any questions or would need me to guide the conversation, but I'll let Mr. Chairman take it from here for a moment.
All right, thank you.
Of
Jeff.
course.
Any comments, questions for staff on this particular subject?
Yeah, I have a comment. In my, I was in the construction industry. I was a superintendent building I built 2 data centers. One was at the Denver Federal Center for the State Department. And the Denver Federal Center has 47 buildings with government agencies in it, and the substation fed those buildings. We had to double the size of that substation to feed this one building. So they use a lot of power. I wouldn't be surprised if a large data center would use all the power that Monument uses right now.
Please.
Quick question-ish. My concern is the QTS and the Interquest Nova station located over here at the Interquest partial. Those are their closest 200 data stations that are there. Has there been any has there been any review of that information on what those data centers are specifically impacting close by here?
Interdepartmentally, no, not yet. No. Yes, that would be part of our direction today, if and that would be a note for something for me to highlight in my research and check back with you.
Okay. Number 2, right now the cable infrastructure associated with what we can even push or pull with fiber broadband, with Xfinity, with whatever companies are here, I think the biggest draw or bandwidth on fiber alone is only 1 gigabyte. A data center is going to push something like, we're talking terabytes. The structure is not even in place. I mean, so I guess within that moratorium aspect, is that something that will be, unless that's, it almost seems like a will serve letter. Unless this is in place, then we will allow this. But if we do not have any intent to build that structure, are we saying then that we will never allow these types of data centers in the future?
Let me restate what I think your question is. As far as the moratorium would simply not allow any applications to move forward for a data center development. So we would not be taking any new applications. We would essentially set a timeline, whether that be 1 year, 18 months, 2 years, whatever time we chose. And in that time, we would do heavy research to define what we would want to see as use-related standards for those developments based on our research of neighboring communities and facilities. And then we could, I'm not sure if a moratorium has ever been lifted in advance of their deadline, but once that deadline is passed, then we would be able to take in applications based on new standards we have developed during that time.
Okay.
Yeah.
Last one, will serve. Obviously, we continually have that problem with the utilities functions that are here. There seems to be no brackets or the public, they truly understand the value of having facilities, the tax base, things along that lines. But ultimately, I don't know that they really realize that money, when we say will serve, will incur back to us as those property owners. Mm-hmm. So there's a lot of reservation now, especially in Monument, where we're looking at and say, well, no, don't serve that. Tri-Lakes, you're saying it's a great thing, but let me have a voice first. Is there something within that moratorium that can be placed inside there so that way that public hearing associated with that will serve letter can literally stabilize that before it goes forward to the Planning Commission?
I see what you're getting at. I don't necessarily know that the moratorium document itself is the mechanism to accomplish what you're looking for.
Sure.
I think that would be more the new code we would write or the use-related standards. I don't think the moratorium would be that mechanism, but I see your concern where we would want to add in those guardrails.
And that's, yeah, I just
Yeah.
want to make sure the guardrails are in
Yep.
place because right now, more and more of these are going to come, whether it's going to be housing, whether it's going to be townhomes, whether it's going to be apartments. But unfortunately, the will serve is always coming up. We will do it, but I don't think somebody's looking at a 5 to 10 year baseline associated with how that's going to impact the community
Yeah.
in that 5 to 10 year baseline.
You're absolutely right. And that's part of the reason why we're specifically having the discussion to set a date for the utility roundtable. We're going to have a frank, open discussion about what the capacity that we have is, what capacity we have to serve any development like this, how we're affecting long-term development and build out capacity, and how any of those costs would be passed on to other ratepayers. So absolutely correct.
Great. Thank you. That's all I had.
Sure.
My quick question, Donna Hatch. My quick question is timeline. You say we need time. Realistically, the planning department meeting with the public, meeting with all the people involved in providing the services. What realistically should we be thinking this timeline's going to be before we actually have a good idea of how we want to move forward?
I think understanding that timeline would be an iterative process. Again, our first step being understanding the capacity, the actual capacity of our utility partners. I don't currently have a clear understanding of what that looks like. Again, as I mentioned, I think it would be most beneficial to see what some peer communities across the Front Range have put in place, even out to Utah and Arizona, and see how those developments are having impacts on the community, utilities and otherwise, potentially before we start writing code that we don't necessarily know the long-term effects of. You can read the black and white in a code, you can read other examples, but it may be beneficial to see how some of these developments play out. So I wouldn't necessarily be able to say there's a particular timeline. We're working on step one, understanding what our utility partners can provide, and we need to go from there.
So this could take a year, 2 years, 5 years.
I feel that depends on the commission and town council, frankly. If the desire is to move quickly and write code, staff's recommendation would be to do that as much in tandem with the comprehensive plan rollout as possible and other Title 18 updates that we intend to do around the fall. I would say that's the timing. If it is the desire to slow down and do very careful planning and tons of research, then that's what we will do as well. I think that would be per the desire of council and commission.
Go one more.
Go ahead, Commissioner Trio.
Commissioner Trujillo, one more question. In listening to that, within the planning department's preview, where do you line this up as far as your top priority?
We haven't set it on our priority roadmap yet. That's part of this initial conversation. We would be introducing a topic and then understanding what timeline commission and council would like to see that in. At that point, then we would plug it into our quarterly roadmap and define when that priority would come throughout the year, or 18 months.
Within the next quarter, what are the top three priorities within the planning department?
I can tell you. We have quarter two laid out with the adoption of the stormwater master plan. That will be town council this coming Monday. We have the adoption of the road design standards. We have post this evening's meeting on the Beacon Light water tank rezone, then that will also be at town council. This item was listed here on this quarter, the introduction to the data centers and possible moratorium. We also have in here just the start, our initial discussions with myself, Dan, and the attorney in regards to our Chapter 18 update and developing an outline. So we have a roadmap on what sections we want to challenge first and handle. So we also have that on there. We will be working towards an introduction to the fee study results. And as well, there's a 2026 budget amendment on here for that's quarter two, April through June.
Perfect. Thank
Yes,
you.
of
Yeah,
course.
definitely good to know.
Thanks. Commissioner Ballmer.
Commissioner Ballmer, really quickly on slide 13, the staff recommendations, I'm very supportive of continuing researching. However, I think we should probably table putting anything in the chapter 18 or the code just yet. And specifically because basing our assessment off peer communities and best practices, I don't think is holistic enough. When I saw this today, I immediately started doing mission analysis, data research, you name it. I want to know the impact to the town of Monument. And I'm going to throw some facts out because you had asked, what do we know about the current stations that are here near us? And Colorado has 70 data centers. We're number 21 out of all 50 states for power usage because of that. They use 1.8 terawattages a year. To put it in perspective, Virginia, Texas, and California are the top three. Virginia being like the global for hyperscale. And the city alone, I think it's Ashburn, Virginia, that their data centers, because they house so many there, use more power than some states. So it is massive. And I immediately go to how much power can we afford to like divvy out water consumption because we have finite resources with the Denver basin and whatnot. An average data center can consume 300,000 gallons daily. A hyperscale or a hypercenter up to 5 million. So understanding our 300-year rule, I think for unincorporated and 100-year for El Paso General, I love AI because I have to have analysis help me a little bit. And I basically said, okay, anywhere from 5,000 to 5 million gallons a day for usage here in Monument and what we have. What's the probability? What's the likelihood? Would we be able to sustain something like this in our community? And it doesn't look good. Honestly, it says it poses a high to absolute risk of exhausting our non-renewable groundwater supplies. So again, I don't think we need to jump into like putting code out there just yet because there's a lot of data analysis that needs to go into this. And my main concern is, like you said, the return of investment on, even if it's a small data center, it's going to use a lot of our resources and we're not going to get that return on investment. We're not going to employ people. It's tax exemption, even the latest bills that were killed on this. The data industry reps stated that the only way that they're going to put something in place is that they get that tax exemption. So again, what's the return on investment to the community? And I really think the community's voice wants to be heard on stuff like this because we're already getting feedback from just smaller industrial type businesses. And that's all I have to say about that.
Thank you.
Thank you. I had a question. Are you making the same presentation to town council?
I will be, yes.
Okay. So,
Date
What-
undetermined.
or from us this evening? in terms of
Something like what Commissioner Baumer had mentioned there, a direction to continue research in coordination with the comprehensive plan. And once we have done a lot more data research and understand the effects on the community based on peer municipalities, et cetera.
Okay.
That's what I heard, if I'm clear.
Yeah, I think we're all in agreement with that. I don't think we need a motion or anything like that. If you just, yeah, I think that's probably the smart way to move.
Okay, I
had-
captured that. Thank you.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No worries.
Commissioner.
I meant to look at this and didn't have time. Do we know why Denver and Laramie are considering a moratorium? Is that because?
I don't know the why. I'm going to assume that it's much like what this conversation is. They are looking to site in their community, and without specific guardrails in place in a community, you're concerned about the impacts. So I'm quite certain it's that similar cause.
Yeah, curious if it's the exact same issues or issues with existing data centers that are there already causing issues. And that's what we can kind of look at from a standpoint of
Yeah.
what our foresight on things. But yeah, I was just curious on if we had detail on that.
Their presentation that they have available online for the May 18th meeting, it didn't provide that exact detail. It provided much the same kind of information I provided here this evening, the concerns of the impacts in those topic categories. We're before the fact, yay. Looking to have this conversation nice and early.
I
Okay.
think that's all I had.
All right. Thanks.
Can I say one more thing?
Yes, please.
It's just for information purposes, but as far as the water goes, they're closed loop cooling systems for data centers. Once the system's filled, it doesn't pump water out of the ground or take it out of your, from the city services. So, and the other thing that they're working with the data centers is modular nuclear units to provide power and totally power the data centers and not take anything off the grid. No, these are units that are like the size of a semi.
I just think about
Yeah.
hazardous waste.
Yeah, I know. They could cause a lot of controversy too, I would imagine.
Yeah, to add to that, there's water agreements that, maybe can be put in place if the data center would come in, either they're paying for water to bring water in or supplement. And then, you have to build a substation if you're gonna bring a data center in and, realizing that how much electricity they use and they have to front the money to be able to do that, which who knows if that financing would be available for someone coming in. And then if that was even possible with those two things, it'd be how does it fit in the community in general, what kind of land would be available and where and how does that fit in adjacent property? But things, all things to consider.
I hate to say that the code and the regulations be the easy part, but I feel like that is the much more sensitive part and the part that has the longest lasting effect. Yeah.
Well, I think the other consideration is that we certainly know what the town limits of Monument are, but a data center could make an application to El Paso County and just outside the town limits. But I think you mentioned that one of the limitations right now is that and I think Commissioner Trujillo mentioned this, was there's no will serve in terms of electrical service, at least initially. So that's almost, that's our one saving grace at this point.
Exactly the wording I would have used. Yes.
I think that's one other consideration we need to think about as well as we move on. But so do you have everything you need from us?
I do. Yes.
Okay. Any other comments? Okay. All right. Well,
It
thank
may
you.
be interesting and helpful to myself as I am just ongoing research on the topic and gathering information. If we have a email thread together and you can provide and pass me any research you found that's valuable, and I could incorporate that or something to highlight. And
Great.
happy to do that. I'll start that conversation in thread.
Okay. Thank you, Jenna. Okay, we'll move on to next item on the agenda. It's a public hearing for the rezone of the Beacon Light Road water tank site. And we'll go back to Jenna
Thank you.
for that presentation.
Okay. So this is our public hearing to apply zoning to the Beacon Light water tank property. So following the completion of a multi-year land and easement acquisition effort, the town annexed the Beacon Light water tank site along with a portion of Beacon Light Road into the town limits through Ordinance 04/2026, which became effective on March 26 of 2026. So annexation brought the property into municipal town authority, but didn't automatically assign a zoning designation. As required by state statute, the town is now seeking to apply the zoning to the property that's been annexed. The proposed zoning to the public zone district would formally establish zoning that is consistent with the site's long-term standing use as a municipal water facility and support ongoing operations and future infrastructure improvements. Pursuant to Chapter 18 Land Development Code, Section 1801-260D, which requires public notice, the town did complete that item with mailings and posting. The subject property is located at the end of the recently approved flagpole annexation on the east side of Beacon Light Road, roughly 1.75 miles north of the intersection of Beacon Light Road and 105. The current zoning surrounding the property is county jurisdiction and ranges from C1 commercial to RR5 and RR5 as well on the west. The Beacon Light water tank site has long served this critical role in supporting the town of Monument's public water infrastructure. With the completion of the annexation of the property of the town, the water tank site transitioned from county regulated parcel to a municipal asset subject to the town of Monument's land use jurisdiction authority. Because the annexed property isn't automatically assigned the zoning designation, the zoning action is required to formally establish the allowed use. According to Colorado Revised statuses, the town is required to apply zoning within 90 days of the effective date of the ordinance 04/2026, which became effective on March 26, 2026, 10 days following its publication. So provided that the zoning is applied to the property by June 24th, 2026, we will have met that state code requirement. The proposed rezoning to public is intended to align the property zoning with both its existing and planned use as a municipal water facility and the town's land use designations. Municipal Land Development Code Section 1803-255 describes the public zone district as intending to provide for property devoted to public and quasi-public buildings and facilitates specifically designed to accommodate government-owned and operated facilities that serve a public purpose, including utilities, infrastructure, and essential services. Per Land Development Code Section 1807, a water tank use is defined as an essential service, and per Section 1803-380 district uses, the essential services use is a permitted use in the public zone district. Zoning the property public ensures long-term compatibility with the surrounding regulatory framework, protects the site from incompatibility development pressures, and provides a clear and consistent land use classification. The application materials and the requested rezone were initially evaluated pursuant to Land Development Code Section 1803-140D, which establishes the criteria for considering a rezone request. That request was determined to meet the requirements of that criteria. In reviewing criteria 1 and the compatibility of the rezoning proposal with the surrounding zone districts and land use in the vicinity, as well as existing neighborhoods, the evaluation showed that the water tank use and its existing long-standing use on the property. Because no change is proposed to the site and the use is considered compatible with the surrounding neighborhood and area and remains suitable to the property. Additionally notable is criteria number 4, which requires that the rezoning is needed to provide for a demonstrated community need or service such as rezoning, and such rezoning will be consistent with the goals, objectives, and policies contained in the comprehensive plan. So evaluation of that criteria found that while the proposed public zone district doesn't strictly align with the 2017 future land use map designation of Business Campus, BC, the request is consistent with the broader goals and policies of the comprehensive plan. The proposed zoning designation of public is consistent with the goals and policies in that the plan identifies water and sewer infrastructure as a key element of community planning, recognizes that reliable utility systems are essential to supporting current residents and accommodating for future growth. Additionally, the comprehensive plan promotes the efficient delivery of municipal services and infrastructure necessary to serve the community. After the evaluation of all the review criteria had been analyzed, the following findings of fact have been made, and those are listed there 1 through 4. So staff has provided a recommended action rather, and we would recommend that the rezone be forwarded with recommendation of approval. Additionally, this evening, for aiding in your recommendations and evaluation of, I have provided a printout of the review criteria that was listed in my presentation. And so moving forward, I thought it may be helpful. What I have seen in my experience is as making recommendations, each commissioner will typically make their recommendation and provide a rationale for that recommendation based on one or all of the review criteria and or finding of fact. So of course, the conversation you would have related to your public hearing, and then each commissioner would typically provide the rationale for their recommendation. So that concludes my presentation. I'm available for any questions if you have any,
All right, thank you.
of course.
Well, this is a public hearing, and so I'll open the public hearing for anyone who would, in the room, who would like to make comments, although we don't have anyone currently sitting in here, but also online. Ray, if there's anyone there that would like to make a comment.
There is no one online.
All right. All right. No one in the room and no one online. I'll go ahead and close the public hearing and open it up to questions and comments from the Planning Commission. Commissioner Trio.
Nothing. Thank you.
Commissioner Peterson. Commissioner Parr. Palmer.
Nothing.
And Commissioner Hatch.
I have a question.
Thank you.
The flag pole effect of that is encompassing the road.
Correct. A portion of Beacon Light Road up to and slightly past that site as well.
Is it common for us to make that public?
The right of way?
Uh-huh. The road.
The right of way would be a public right of way.
Okay,
Yes.
all right. And zoning it public is not going to be,
You would not be zoning the right of way, only the property boundaries, the
okay.
parcel
The
itself.
other question is, do we now know who is responsible for that road?
If we have taken, yes, so we have assumed ownership of that road. I believe there's currently an agreement for an improvement agreement in the works or in effect with the county for improvements of that strip of road. So while we own the right of way, there's an improvements agreement with the county, For
Done.
that.
Thank you.
of course.
Anything else from the commission? All right, we'll go ahead and close comments and questions, and I'll go ahead and entertain a motion. Oh, okay, sure.
My question, yes, and I thank you, sorry to break this up, but I'm trying to figure out if this motion, we keep it, obviously, we keep the intent of the water tower. This is by no means going to be intentionally interpreted as a blanket authorization for future infrastructure, correct? I mean,
I understand your question. I am not aware of any changes in the use or intensity of that property planned at this time. It was just to align the existing use with the zoning established in our land development code. In some other universe, if the property wanted to change its use and develop different infrastructure on it or add to the use, that would be a different story, but nothing like that is in the works right now.
okay, and I'm just trying to get ahead of the future aspect of knowing what's going up there to the north. How is that going to play a factor associated with not only the infrastructure, but the other possibilities of expanding that even further?
As related to the Beacon Light water tank itself, that parcel,
Yeah.
I don't know that it would have any effect on that. That's a municipal municipal facility. I don't know that it would affect that at all or be involved.
Is it enjoined with any portion of the county as a side-by-side parcel or no?
Adjacent,
That's
yes,
adjacent, okay.
yeah. That is a flagpole annexation, so the road is annexed and then the parcel at the end
Okay.
on the
No,
east.
yeah, that's where it was. Thank you.
Okay.
Yes, if you would like to have some discussion, typically each commissioner would kind of follow what I have there. You can choose one or a couple to validate your recommendation. Yeah, individual discussion.
Go ahead. Do we need a motion before we provide the criteria that we're agreeing with?
You would provide the motion, each person would provide their recommendation, and as they're providing their recommendation, they would provide the rationale for that, and I think then you would provide your final vote.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. So then we'll take we want to make a motion either to recommend or to deny the annexation or the rezoning, I'm sorry. So do we have a motion regarding this subject?
I'm not understanding. I guess normally we do a motion, do a second, and we'd be out. I'm not understanding what you're looking for.
We're looking to follow what is commonly in practice in many planning commissions. You would, of course, still just have your vote, a motion, a second, and then each person would provide their vote. But it is common for each commissioner to validate their recommendation with a rationale, and that rationale is typically provided by identifying one or many of the review criteria or findings of fact to support their recommendation. You maybe typically that conversation would be a short discussion. Maybe Commissioner Hatch, you would say something along the lines of, I am in favor of the Beacon Light water tank. It is in compliance with review criteria 6 and 7 in that it follows the comprehensive plan and it's compatible with land zoning jurisdictions. So because of that, I am voting in favor of a recommendation, a
So
positive recommendation, something along those lines.
I think it's more of a declaration of why you would vote for it or
Right.
against it.
And so it may be helpful to provide a connection. It sounds like some of us or all of us have been doing research on recent data centers, and we've watched how those votes have happened in a public forum. And we've seen how some of those have just simply been a vote yes or no, and they should be providing a rationale for those votes based on the review criteria. So in order to protect our decisions or recommendations, we're looking to implement that practice.
Okay. All right, so we're still looking for a motion to either recommend approval or to deny.
Donna Hatch, I make a motion to approve the rezoning of the Beacon Light Road water tank site to public.
That's fine. Then you
Have a
would
second?
provide your, exactly.
Commissioner Peterson, I second the motion based on findings of fact, based on criteria listed under 18.03.140D.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Ray, would you like to take roll? And during roll, if the commissioners would like to provide their declaration of why they would vote for or against that based on the findings of fact.
Or the review criteria you see in front of you.
Criteria, yes. So Ray?
Thank you. Chair Egley.
Yes, I vote for it primarily because of item number 4, that the proposed rezoning is needed to provide land for a demonstrated community need or service, and such rezoning will be consistent with the goals, objectives, and policies contained within the comprehensive plan.
Thank you. Vice Chair Peterson.
Vote yes, based on findings of facts presented by County Monument.
Thank you. Commissioner Baumer.
Based on the application satisfying review criterias 3, 4, 5, and 7, I vote to recommend the request.
Thank you. Commissioner Hatch.
Based on the application satisfying review or criterias number 1 through 8 by Donna Hatch, I vote to recommend the request.
Thank you. Commissioner Parr.
I vote yes also based on the criteria that Jenna provided.
Thank you. Commissioner Trujillo.
Under criteria 18.03.140D, section 6, I approve and vote yes.
Thank you. Motion passes 6 in favor, none opposed.
All right, thank you. Okay, we'll move on to the next item on the agenda. It's workshop public items. Is there anything you want to share with us?
Sure. Just a brief update. I want to thank the team for providing me with some questions that I was able to collect, break down into similar themes and questions related to our workshop on metal buildings and building materials to forward to town council for their response and some a little additional clarification. The intention is and was to pass those questions along to town council in advance of a joint workshop that we will be having with them. We haven't solidified a date for that joint workshop due to different availabilities. So once we have that date solidified, we will be transmitting those questions along to town council with enough time for them to provide some response so we can have a productive conversation during that joint workshop. So again, thank you for providing me excellent feedback so I forward that along to help that conversation. So I will keep everyone apprised of the date that we choose to do that as well.
And we'll get a list of those questions in
Yeah,
advance.
absolutely. Yes, you will most certainly be copied on the email as well.
Okay. All right. Thank you. We'll move on to reports and communications and announcements. Anything from the commission? No? How about from staff?
Nothing additional for me at this time.
Okay.
I do want to invite the commission. I understand that this process of kind of validating your recommendation is a little bit new, something to get used to, but I invite you to dig into it as we move into applications. It's an interesting part of the process, and it can invite more robust conversation and back and forth to understand other people's rationale. So as we move forward with this process, I invite you to really dig into it.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you for playing along.
Thank you, Jenna. All right, our next meeting is June 10th, 2026 at 6 p.m. And I'll now entertain a motion to adjourn.
I, Commissioner Trujillo, recommend a motion to adjourn.
Second,
Second. I
all in
second it.
favor?
Aye.
And we are now adjourned.